That's what I expected.
The year is 1984. Footloose and Ghostbusters hit theaters. MTV has its first Video Music Awards, and the NES release is right around the corner. The following decade is about to rock my world, as yours truly gets official spot on this planet. I wanna rock! What is up, my pack rats? Thank you guys so much for joining me. Man, it was awesome being raised in the 80s. I literally gained my taste for music from glam metal and big hair rock bands, and that really shows in the way that I lean towards loving guitar riffs and just getting down to that rock and roll, that sweet rock and roll, baby. Growing up, it was music 24/7 in the house. Saturday mornings, me and my sister would normally be woken up to something like Rat or Whitesnake or Warrant. The list goes on. Fast forward 30 years, couple that rock and roll upbringing with video games, and you got yourself a recipe for some of the most killer NES games that rock. Literally. There is something about video game tunes that just hits you right in that eardrum. It is the sweet spot. These chip tunes end up giving you such a nostalgic feeling mixed with some of your love for 80s rock. It's kind of the best of both worlds. So these games may have been 8-bit gems, but their music transcended the medium that was already difficult to produce for. So with that said, this is my list of NES games that rock. So before we get into it, I have some that hit the cutting room floor on some of my favorites for this list, and I wanted to go over those with you guys real quick. So first is the game Kallax. What's cool about this game is it was right at the turn in 1990. This had such a really like raw, industrial, just a kind of a crazy sound to it, but I've definitely enjoyed Kallax. You can actually pause the menu and change your song in the middle of the game, which is cool too. Kallax, that rocks. Take a listen. Next up is Abadox. This is a side-scrolling shooter. You basically are in the guts of this planet. It's called the Deadly Inner War for a reason. And you're just kind of busting up anything that looks like a internal intestine for the most part. The soundtrack to this, though, is freaking awesome. It goes with the game, and I really enjoy it. So check that one out. Batman is a perfect example of some of the best soundtracks that were made for the NES games. If you haven't played Batman, man, this is a side-scrolling action-adventure platformer, and it's awesome. They did such a good job with this one and Batman Returns, and both soundtracks are amazing, but this is a really, really good soundtrack. ones that just narrowly missed the list, but there are some that, from a far margin, didn't make the list at all. Don't ever listen to these ones. Hey, sidebar, there are going to be some things that are not on the list. So, Mob, please don't come at me right away. I excluded stuff like Zelda and Castlevania. They are memorable and they really engage you within the atmosphere, but truly rocking, I don't know. I would say Castlevania is almost there. The theatrical soundtracks and stuff that are in it are awesome for the gameplay. Also stuff like Mario and Metroid, they are nostalgic to hear, but do they really rock? I don't know. So that was it. Sidebar out. I'm sorry it's taken this long to get to a sweet top 10, but here we go. First one, which is number 10, because we're counting backwards. Silver Surfer. Not only is this a very difficult game, but the soundtrack is amazing. Check it. There is something about the composition to that song that just kind of gets you going. And there has actually been some people that have done remixes and covers of it, which sounds even cooler. Silver Surfer, rock on. It is really hard not to put these in any list. So at number 9, these are most people's childhood favorites because they were awesome games, but there is something about the music to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, especially that intro. Character select screen. There is an awesome band that does a remix. I'll actually show you here. Follow them, subscribe to them. It is awesome to hear some of this covers. It's totally worth it. So, Ninja Turtles and Turtles 2, kind of cheating. Number 9 is both games, but they're awesome, right? All right, next game on the list. This is my buddy CJR's intro music to his channel, and for good reason. And this is Mega Man 3. Out of all of the Mega Man games that have been in this franchise, all the music is pretty good, but Mega Man 3 just hit it in just a different way. Man, there is nothing like the select screen. Which is so very cool. There is a guy named Daniel, I want to say it right, Daniel Raju, I believe. I'll post it down below. Go check out his channel. He does this amazing cover for Mega Man 3 and the select screen, which is awesome. He actually does the whole thing. Again, these games are difficult, but when you got a good track behind it, it keeps you going, that's for sure. No one is a stranger to this game and its difficulty level, but Battletoads is my number 7. So, Battletoads in general, the soundtrack is okay, but once you hit the turbo tunnel, that's when things get real awesome. The turbo tunnel in Battletoads, you feel like you're a rock star on this hovercraft jumping on what looks like tongues. Legit. And Battletoads, again, notoriously difficult game, pretty awesome soundtrack, but that turbo tunnel is one of the coolest levels and one of the coolest soundtracks in the game. So, check it out. Number 6. Have you ever needed a little bit of rock and a little bit of Bach? Because if the answer to that question is yes, then Gyruss is for you. This game takes a classic and turns it on its head and turns it into one of the most memorable and coolest music tracks to an NES game I've ever heard. On top of that, there's also been a cover to the Gyruss game, and this was from Technosoft, composed by VANI. I want to make sure that's right. I'll put a link again to that YouTube so you guys can please sub to them. Man, Gyruss alone is an awesome game, but the soundtrack, ooh. Bach's Toccata is reinvented with this amazing soundtrack of this NES game. If you guys get a chance, check it out. My number 5 already pisses me off because in trying to capture gameplay footage, and I'll show you guys, I could not get past the first level. I died every single time. So such a difficult game. But once you get far enough, the music kicks in, and it is a very cool track, and that is Sky Shark. One of the coolest shooters, I believe, on the NES, and it takes you a while to really get good at this game. Pretty difficult, but if you can go, there is an awesome track associated with this game. That's all I have to say. This has an awesome soundtrack to it. Check it out. guys, we're getting to the top 4. My number 4 game that rocks on the NES is Ninja Gaiden. It is a very cool platformer. It is, again, very difficult game, but some of the coolest music that you'll ever hear. Make sure that you guys go and sub to Alexei Sokolov and give him some love for such a sweet cover of Ninja Gaiden. This is an awesome game and a very, very cool soundtrack. We go. We're on top 3. You guys saw this in my intro. There's no hiding this one. Contra. Iconic gameplay, iconic sound and music, some of the coolest stuff on any NES game. And the shout out for his name is Michael Sobin, did some awesome stuff with Contra, does like basically the whole game, and it is some beauty to listen to. All right, number 2. I struggled with this one because I love both games for number 2 and number 1. This game is still such an awesome game. It belongs, no matter what, at least in a top 10, especially for some of the beginning tracks in the levels, and that is Double Dragon 3. I actually played Double Dragon 3 first, and again, a very difficult game. They cheap you in this game, but Double Dragon 3 has one of the most iconic songs, and that is the USA song. I think it's called Street, which is right after you get out of the dojo and you're in the streets and you're fighting guys, it kicks in. There is something about that song which is absolutely amazing. And I'm gonna give a shout out to Zubaruz. Make sure to sub to him, follow his stuff. He has some amazing covers that he does of Double Dragon 3, and I have not heard a cover this amazing yet. Last but certainly not least, and actually my favorite NES game of all time, which is kind of interesting, that is Jackal. This soundtrack is amazing. I get so jacked every time that I hear this soundtrack, and this game is awesome. a shout out again to Gyruss, because he did another amazing cover of this song and my favorite level, which is the third one, and it is awesome. So I'm gonna leave you guys there with his rendition of this cover, and enjoy. Rock stars, thank you guys for sticking with me through my NES games that absolutely rock. Please let me know down in the comments if you guys have games that deserve to be on a list of games that are so amazing for the soundtrack that I just totally spaced. Let me know. If you guys like what I got going on and you like my silly content, please think about hitting that subscribe button. It means the world. I appreciate everybody sticking out, hanging out, being a pack rat, and until I catch you guys next time, rock and roll, sweet Susie, rock and roll.